So what is a subject? As we go through school, we run into all these subjects, and oftentimes we find them very boring and disengaging. And we don't really stop and take the time to figure out what is wrong. Why are these subjects that are supposed to be so important so bland to us? To understand this, we're going to need to define subject, and we're going to use the word itself. So if you look at the word, break it into two parts, and then you expand each of those parts into two full words, you get the definition: a subjective ectype. And an ectype simply is a copy. So it's a subjective copy. That's what a subject is. Let's look at the meaning of this kind of fleshed out. First, it is a subjective ectype. There are many. There are a few different subjects: math, English, science. However, every person has a different view on that subject. Every teacher has essentially a different subject. Additionally, once you engage with the subject, you don't see the subject as it is taught, you see it as how you interpret it. So you are creating your own subject. So just like every historian has created history as they've seen fit, and every mathematician, every teacher, and so you. So there are just countless subjects floating everywhere. There's a multitude of them, and they're all subjective. They're all from someone's perspective. The classic example is in history. When you read a history book, you're not actually reading what happened, you're reading the author's interpretation, their subjective interpretation of either what they saw or what they heard, or even sometimes what they read. So you're not seeing actually, you're not learning actually, you're learning an objective view of what happened. And it is an ectype, it's a copy. Many times what we have are copies of copies of copies. So you're so far removed from the original subject matter, it's difficult to grasp what was actually going on. Why did the mathematician create this formula? We don't know in a lot of cases. They created it and we create theories of how it's supposed to work, but there's a lot of confusion there because there's so many copies between us and the source material. So every subject is an interpretive copy, and that's why we feel so disassociated many times from the educational subjects, because they're all just interpretive copies. So how is a subject created? As human beings, how do we bring forth all these subjects? Well, the first thing we do is we consider creation. We consider what's happening. We look at the history, or we look at some math equation, and we try to figure out how does creation work. Now, once we feel like we've got it, we test it, and it seems like it works most of the time, then we copy it. All right? This is how we create the subject. But then we go further. We don't just simply copy the way creation works. We then corrupt creation. Why? Because we think our copy is the way creation's supposed to work, so we start impressing our copy onto creation. But as you've noticed, your copies never fully perfectly work. So you have to force creation into your copy. And that's what creates the corruption. You're forcing creation into a copy that it never actually functioned as and actually can't function as. And that's how we as human beings corrupt creation. So when you copy creation, you're really, in the end, corrupting creation. So why then study a subject? If it's such a mess, if it's all interpretive copies, why even go through the hassle of studying all these subjects, math, English, science, and everybody's interpretation of each of them? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to uncover ignorance. Nobody knows anything, and the best place to start is yourself. Why are you even studying? Because you don't know. You're ignorant, and that's where you want to start. You want to know that you don't know. That's very helpful. And then you can see that everybody who's created one of these subjects, history, writers, those who've created math formulas, they didn't know either. And they went to creation to try to learn. That's wrong. You don't go to creation to learn, you go to the creator. But when we go to creation to learn, we end up making a mess. We create these subjective copies of everything, these interpretations. But you don't just want to stop there, you also want to uncover how insolent we are. We feel that we can actually make a good copy of creation, the way things should be, the way things should really work. Now they're not, but it should work this way. Like, how insolent do we need to be to create something like that. Clearly, creation's been sustaining itself fine without us. It knows how math works. We create formulas to try to understand how creation works, but those things have been working for a long time before we came and will continue after we're gone as well. Ultimately, though, you can see by studying a subject how indifferent we are. We don't really care the way creation actually works. We don't really care what happened in history. We care about our interpretation, our subjective perspective on the way things should be. That's what we really care about. We're really ultimately indifferent about the way things actually function in the world around us. So in the end, you see that by studying your subjective archetypes, these subjects, English, math, science, you'll find that you're really studying yourself. Because remember, when you study history, you're not studying what happened. You're not even studying the historian's perspective. You're studying your perspective. You can't get into the historian's perspective. You can only see your perspective. So as you study subjects, you're really studying you. So who is a subject? The first place to start is you. You are a copy. The Creator copied you from himself. Now in the fall, what we did is we rejected him as our source material. So what did we do then? We thought we could know how to be good and avoid evil. We tried to be our own source material. And of course that created corruption because we were made based on the Creator, and now we've rejected our source material and we're trying to copy ourselves. But not only are you a copy, all your creations are copies of you. All your thoughts, emotions, and actions are interpretive copies of your soul. So everything coming out of you is a copy of a copy. You don't have the original source material when you're born in the fallen world. You're born without the Creator. So you don't know who you are. You don't know why you're here. You don't know how you function. You don't know what you're supposed to do because you don't have the source material. And if you go to study creation, even your own thoughts, emotions, and actions, the world around you, relationships, finances, you're just going to be confused because you're looking at copies of copies of copies and you don't have the source material. You need the Creator who is your source material. Without him, nothing makes sense. And also, too, we see that all creation is also a copy. The original creation when it was formed was good. As soon as we fell, though, creation lost its connection, its direct connection with the Creator. We were supposed to walk with the Creator and bring forth his subduing, filling, and ruling ways into the world. Yet when we fell, all creation then got knocked off balance, and it's been copying itself ever since without ever being able to perfectly replicate what was there before the fall. So all of creation now, because of us, is just an endless series of copies that are slowly degrading towards death because we don't have the source material. So you are a subjective archetype and you're copying yourself, and that's what's ruining the world. Nothing's wrong with the world. The problem is we are making the copies that the world's functioning under, and that's the problem.